Excellent. Hello, everyone. We currently have now 55 attendees on the line. Hello and welcome to the info about the Data Against COVID-19 EIT Digital Deep Hack, an online hackathon that's going to be happening on the 1st to the 3rd of May. This session's to give you a little bit more info onto the hackathon and a little bit about what the expected results, and maybe you'll hear from some experts on the data itself. So obviously, everybody has been affected by COVID-19 in some way or another. We're currently here social distancing virtually, bringing this to you, otherwise it would be a physical event. We're trying to create these solutions to maybe predict future waves using the data that's existing from this outbreak across the globe. So we have attendees from all across the globe. This is open for everybody to join in. So if you haven't sent it to a friend, get them to join in before the good stuff starts in a moment. Hopefully you can find some interesting information from it. Just a few little tips for you. If you have questions and you wish to aim them towards one of the presenters, please feel free to use the Q&A section. So the Q&A section, actually, you can type the question, and if someone else has a similar question, please like that question, and it will show that many people have that kind of query. The presenters will then take the time to answer your questions, either during the presentation, if they notice the question, but if not, they can actually answer via writing a reply. So always come back to the Q&A section. There is a chat function. You may interact with each other, introduce yourself, find out who else is on the line, find out if anybody has a project already submitted. If you are wanting to find a team, put it out there. It's a good opportunity for some matchmaking. If you want to find, or if you have a project already, pitch it there. Maybe some interested persons will be able to join you. But without further ado, I will hand the floor over now to Jan Grotenbreg from EIT Digital to give you a little bit more insight into the deep hack. Over to you, Jan.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ian. Good afternoon to all of you. First of all, I hope that you, your family and friends are healthy and safe from the COVID-19 coronavirus. And as Ian indicated, we all experience the daily impacts of the virus, not only for our health, but also we look around and our leaders and government have taken decisions and policies that have virtually, as a consequence, brought down the economy. Many of us are confined to work from home, and we observe social distancing. The COVID-19 virus truly is a threat for the human society in an unprecedented scale and scope. And in order to contain this pandemic, I think we have to apply the human skills that we have applied over the centuries and ages in order to survive. We have to apply those things that makes us a human credible and survivable. We have to adapt, we have to communicate, and we have to innovate. And we will have to fight back with the weapons we have. And in this particular case, for the upcoming deep hack, our weapon will be data. We'll come back on this later in more detail. I'm therefore very pleased to announce the 9th edition of the EIT Digital Deep Hack, Data Against COVID-19. I think many of you have, over the past 2 years, become familiar with the deep hack in many ways. And we have visited many cities all over Europe, as well as here in Silicon Valley, and now a new venue online. So these hackathon-style events, which we produce in close cooperation with our partners from UltraHack, focus on practical solutions for innovation challenges and business problems. As usual, we will focus on a specific problem with a selected and limited number of teams. And for this upcoming event, we will select 10 to 15 teams from the total number that's being registered right now to participate in the event weekend from May 1st to May 3rd. Please remember, the next selection is uniquely based upon the description of the project you submit and the composition of your team. So make sure you have a compelling description of the project you put online. Make the judges feel that they are really missing out something if they wouldn't select your submission. And believe me, you do want to be part of this DPAC. We have secured a very attractive amount of prize money, a total of 15,000 euros to be divided amongst the winners, but there's more. Every team that makes it into the DPAC and to the final presentation can apply for an innovation grant to support further development of the solution for another 6 months. Isn't that wonderful? This is a special grant made available by EIT Digital for this DPAC event. Hey guys, it's worth the extra effort. Maybe a good moment to tell a few words about EIT Digital for those who are not familiar with the activities yet, but I really recommend to check it out online. Our website is eitdigital.eu. We are leading European digital innovation and education organization, and we are chartered to drive Europe's digital transformation. And we work together with a pan-European ecosystem of over 200 top European corporations, small businesses, startups, universities, and research institutes. We're located in 17 offices all over Europe and a hub connecting to the Center of Innovation in Silicon Valley. And some of our EIT Digital core activities include innovation projects in close cooperation with our partners, an accelerator program supporting business development for scale-ups, and a master school program in cooperation with 20 universities all over Europe. And there's much more happening at EIT Digital, like this DPAC event. So don't forget to check it out, eitdigital.eu. I think some of you might be familiar with the Master School, as we regularly have students from that program participating in our events, and often with good success. Well, anyway, I think I've spoken more than enough. Let's go and talk a little bit more about the challenge for the DPAC, which gives me the opportunity to introduce our next speaker, Chahab Nastar. Chahab is the Chief Technology Officer of EIT Digital and the mastermind behind many of our strategic innovation initiatives. Let's welcome Chahab with a warm applause.
Thanks a lot. Thanks so much, Jan. My name is Chahab indeed. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer of EIT Digital. Jan covered a lot of ground already, but I just want to take a step back and tell you a little bit our philosophy behind this DPAC, and maybe a little bit more also about EIT Digital as a whole, right? So we are a European organization, and we are all about innovation and education. We are all about deep technology, which is sophisticated technology that is hard to reproduce or is well protected. Our objective is to build things. We are builders. You are builders as well. That's why we're meeting today. And that's why you are engaging in this DPAC. This is not about just slides and PowerPoint and discussion. This is about building and engineering a working system quickly. By putting together very rapidly this DPAC, and I want to thank once again Jan and the UltraHack team for pulling it off. We have we're really showing that we are serious with agility. We're agile enough to address the pandemic with the worldwide community of entrepreneurial developers. And that is for us very important. One particular aspect, of course, with EIT Digital is that we are not biologists. We are not about biology. We're not about DNA or virus understanding. And therefore, our angle, as you've all noticed in this DPAC, is data against COVID-19, right? So it's all about the virus spread and the alert system, data sharing, maybe statistical approaches, machine learning, and more generally integrating health and economic data to really understand how we can best respond to this pandemic from a data standpoint. One last thing I want to say, because I don't want to give a long speech, is that we endorse entrepreneurs. And the entrepreneurs are the future of the world. Entrepreneurs build things, and we need entrepreneurs more than ever. If you are entrepreneurs, if you, after this deep hack, and after being, hopefully for you, selected in the final selection, you are interested in pursuing the effort that you have prototyped here for 6 months, then there will be, the opportunity will be there for you to do just that and devote a substantial and maybe 100% of your time for each team to developing the solution that you have outlined or sketched during the deep hack with 6 months of also financial support from EIT Digital. So that is a tremendous possibility that people should look at seriously. So for me, this deep hack has two kinds of prizes, right? There's the prize that Jan talked about, that there's this follow-up longer activity to save the world with an entrepreneurial team, and that's what we are about. With that, I'm going to stop here and I'm going to pass it on to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jan, and thank you, Chahab, for those words. So as you see, great opportunities, great prizes to be won for anybody who has entered a submission. And we just had a little live poll going there while we were listening to those words from Chahab and Jan. Unfortunately, there seems to be a few people who haven't entered a submission yet, but you do still have time, so don't worry about it. Hopefully, the next keynote presenters will give you some ideas around that. So to give you a little bit more of an insight into UltraHack, we're an open innovation company here based in Finland. We've been existing now for 5 years. We've been collaborating with EIT Digital for these deep hacks now since 2018. It's been a pleasure to actually be working with EIT Digital for these. It's been so much fun. We actually have many other challenges and things as well ongoing with other partners too, so keep an eye out on our platform for those. I'm Ian McCready. I'm the CCO of UltraHack. We also have Amelia. Say hi, Amelia. She's silent. Social distance. She's across the other side of the office here, so we're keeping her distance.
Yeah, hello.
Yep. So we're here representing UltraHack. We'll be here for the hackathon as well. So we're also on the Slack. So for any of you who aren't on the Slack channel, get yourselves there, ask questions there as well, now or after. We'll be able to help you out there. But without further ado, let's move on to Antti Tuomi from THL. Antti Tuomi-Nikula from THL. Would you like to test your microphone?
Yes. Oh, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. So unfortunately, I have to share my screen for this, but Antti will be prompting me to change the slides. So I will hand the floor over now to you, Antti. Enjoy the presentation. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Ian, and hello, everyone. I'm Antti from the National Institute for Health and Welfare in Finland, abbreviated THL. I'm aiming at better usability, visibility, and the use of THL's data. THL has vast information resources on health and welfare of the population of Finland, and one of THL's strategic aims is to increase the secondary use of them. But how and where are they being stored? What is their potential in research and development? How can I access them? Under which conditions? What must be kept in mind when dealing with super-sensitive data? These are the themes we are on about today. I start with the more general stuff, give you an idea of the extent topic, and delve deeper into the corona towards the end. I must point out that we are not an official partner and we don't have a challenge at UltraHack this time out, but we want to offer our data and expertise for you in our collective effort to kick the COVID-19 in the butt. Next one, please. So, I'm not just being smug here. We can proudly say that we are #1 in Finland in terms of health and welfare open data. So, we do rule. Next one, please. Okay, for background, in order to have loads of open data, you have to have even more source data. And that's what we have. We have many different national level data sources throughout the human lifespan, from the sweet start to the bitter end, registers as well as surveys. Next one, please. And this picture hopefully clarifies the big picture. In addition to the surveys and registers, we also have, for example, biobank forensic data. But since the source data per se mostly contains personal identifiers, it must remain classified. It can only be opened if it's first processed accordingly, converted to, for example, statistics and indicators. Next one, please. Here's an overview of our open data supply, broken down in main topics. We have a statistical database, or actually a couple of those, with a possibility of file download and API connection. Metadata is being improved powerfully these days too. And next one, please. And we have not only data tables, but also various visualization tools. The most important are listed here. The Sotkanet databank is our flagship. It has over 2,000 indicators, long time series, and a vast number of variables to choose from. There's over 100,000 visits a year. And next one, please. Here are some who utilize our open data. Media, universities, startups are amongst our regular customers. And the next one, please. So here's our main topic of today. At the moment, it's only available in Finnish. But the structure is very simple, and I also think that many who are following this webinar master Finnish language too. But shortly, we have data on confirmed cases of COVID-19 and also tests. These data are broken down by date, by hospital district, municipality, age group, and sex. And so, like I told you, this is the data we have now. We are all the time updating our open data website, and I hope we'll have more data before this is over. So now seems to be some kind of a connection problem.
I think we will share. Is it possible we share this presentation afterwards as well for everyone that?
Oh yes, definitely. But I'll continue. Okay, here we go again.
We are back.
So we can go to the next slide, which is partly visible already. We have promoted the use of THL Open Data in a number of hackathons to demonstrate there's a lot you can do with it. This time we are especially interested in systematic data analysis, combining different data sources, possibly leading to predictions on how the pandemic may evolve. Unfortunately, I won't be present at the hackathon itself, but there will be at least one mentor from THL to guide you in utilizing our data. He knows it throughout. And there's one slide left, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. Thanks for your attention. There's a website, web address. There you can find all our open data, including this COVID-19 data. I wish you all luck and success in the hackathon and in other upcoming endeavors too. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you, Antti, for that presentation. Sorry for the slight issue there with the screen sharing and the connection. Has there been any questions from the attendees aimed at you? Let's see. I think, Antti, one of the things that we mentioned when we were discussing doing this, you were mentioning about the security and the privacy issue with the data. Are there any tips and advice you can give to the participants of this webinar regarding that? Because I believe that that's something that could crop up on many occasions.
Yes. Well, our approach, THL's approach, is that we are very cautious in sharing open data. Of course, we have to be careful when we deal with health data, because it's data on people's health, and so that's why our data is very aggregated, made into statistics. Of course, it limits its use, but we have to go like that. And
I think there's one more question. Sorry. Yep.
Yes, go on.
Yeah, there was just one question here about research work about the progression of COVID illness in citizens' lifestyle and nutrition. Is that one that you'd be able to take up, or is that more of from the healthcare side?
Yeah, well, I know that at THL there is research going on or starting on these issues, but at this point there's nothing more I could tell about it. But research is being done.
And then I have maybe one more question for you that could help the participants out a little bit. What kind of tools would you like to see being developed from this hackathon that could actually help THL advise, for example, the Finnish government, and maybe advise the citizens and stuff as well on like future outbreaks of COVID-19 or even future pandemics, what would you see as a very useful tool here, and what other kind of data would you like to see combined?
Yes, well, hard to tell since I don't know what other data there is to be used. But for example, advanced data analytic solutions and maybe visualizations, animated visualizations to see how the pandemic has evolved, and maybe even to predict how it might evolve from now on. Maybe these are the things that I would be personally most interested in.
Yeah. Perfect. Sounds good. Is there any more questions on the question? Nothing at the moment. Nope. Do you have any hints or tips for the participants then on what to do to keep their minds healthy during this isolation period? What are you doing? What's your secret sauce for keeping yourself in shape and healthy? And
me? You're asking me?
Yeah. I noticed you have the beard.
Little bit of workout once an hour, and a little bit of heavy metal too.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Can't beat that. Some good tips there. Perfect. Thank you, Antti. So will you be sticking around to address any questions in the chat?
Oh yeah,
For a little bit?
I'll be here.
Yep. Perfect. So if you've got any questions for Antti, feel free to put them into the Q&A and Antti will address them for you. But next up, we have Rositsa from DDI, Dalberg Data Insights, who's actually working on the COVID data in Belgium and I believe in some places in Africa as well. So I will hand the floor over now to you, Rositsa. So enjoy.
Thank you. Can you hear me well? Just give me a
Yes.
thumb up if you can hear me.
Yep.
Perfect. Thanks, Jan, and good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all keeping safe and sane in these unprecedented times. As Jan mentioned, I'm actually a data entrepreneur. I'm a very much practitioner. And in the next few minutes, I'll tell you a bit about what we're doing. Hopefully that will inspire some of your thinking. But I would also be very practical in some of the recommendations I will share, kind of principles, guiding principles on what you could be thinking about as you engage in this next 2-3 days of brainstorming, of designing, developing data against COVID solutions. So my company, Dalberg Data Insights, is a data analytics firm based between Brussels, Belgium, and Kampala, Uganda. And we are part of a global strategy, design, and analytics firm called Dalberg, which is present in about 24 locations around the world, with quite a lot of presence in Africa, because we are addressing mostly international development topics. Most recently, Dalberg Data Insights have been supporting the Minister of Health in Belgium in the use of anonymized and aggregated telecom data from the 3 major telecom operators here in Belgium in order to understand population movements and predict the spread of COVID-19. Additional to that, I've been working in the field for the last 5+ years. We called it data for development. Now it's data against COVID. Things are changing. But we have worked on developing poverty models using telecom data to be able to identify the most vulnerable communities. Quite relevant today, especially, in the development context where, in developing countries, we're talking about, an upcoming humanitarian crisis where people do not really have social security to rely on. And if you are to be locked in for more than a week or 2 days or 2 weeks, you might as well, starve to death. So we are talking about, how do we identify remotely the most vulnerable communities to be able to design cash transfer programs, to be able to prevent humanitarian crisis. And this is what we are doing actually right now in Kenya and in Uganda. We have used satellite images to monitor crop yields and predict food securities and food insecurities in a couple of African countries. During the Ebola outbreak, our team used, and that's in West Africa, but we actually used similar approach for Zika and chikungunya in Brazil, and for malaria in some of the West African countries. We've also used aggregated and anonymized telecom data to basically track population movements, again, predict the spread of the virus, identify risk areas, etc., working very closely with the ministries of health. And last but not least, obviously, the range of use cases and data projects are endless, but I'm focusing here on some of them that hopefully will inspire some of your thinking going forward. When we can, we use gender disaggregated data to basically make women more visible. And that's also quite important because often, the male norm is taken as a norm. And it's very important to be able to gender disaggregate when possible, to be able to identify the unique challenges both men and women face in various different social problems. So yeah, not surprising to all, we live in really unimaginable times. And the spread of the COVID-19 virus is a human tragedy and global tragedy that will impact our communities for many years to come. The social and economic costs are huge and mounting, and they're already contributing, to a global slowdown that we are all observing. Every day, the emerging pandemic reveals new vulnerabilities in various aspects of our lives, both economic, political, but also social lives. More vividly, we've noticed the vulnerabilities in the public health systems, in our dysfunctional political climates, in our fragile global supply chains, in financial markets. And a range of evidence, some of them I mentioned to you earlier, from around the world, suggests that better use of data could really help address some of these, complex public problems, including climate change, economic and gender inequality, as well as public health crisis. And in the next few days, we're going to be partnering up, spending some days to address the COVID-19 crisis using data, in this data against COVID challenge. And, allow me in the next 2-3 minutes to just share kind of 3 principles or 3 takeaways from my last, 5+ years of experience in the field that I hope will guide your thinking, because I feel whatever we are doing, we don't have a lot of time. Time is our very limited resource here, and we need to be as practical as possible. And we could be thinking about the most fancy, data visualizations and algorithms out there, but they need to be practical. And let me share 3, principles that I hope will kind of guide you a little bit going forward. Starting with the fact that you need to start by identifying the most important information for decision makers. If we are to talk about, data against COVID, we need to know what actual information is needed out there for decision makers. What is the problem that you're trying to address? Is it allocation of resources? Is it public policy design? Is it an exit strategy that you're going to help, design and then basically start from there? Because, currently at the moment, we are actually working in Uganda with the Ministry of Health and UNICEF, where we are accessing all the existing public health data, including data from the telecom operators, to try and support the government with data-driven products to address the COVID crisis. And the first and most important thing that we started doing this week is talk to all the COVID task force in the countries, and not only, because it's not only a healthcare response, it's also an economic response. So you need to talk to different stakeholders and understand what is important information for them to be able to take more informed decisions. To start from, the practical side of things, what is the most important information? Once you know that, and it's actually, the second point is very interrelated, and it's about identifying the decision makers. You are identifying important information for decision makers, but who are they? Are you deciding or designing solutions for policymakers? Is it for the Ministry of Health? Or even more concretely, is it for district public health, officials? Is it for doctors? Is it for the general public, like me, people like me and you? Learn more about them. How are they currently working, and how your data solutions could change their behaviors or their lives or their, the way they do their work. Is it going to really help? And how it's interrelated with the existing products and services that they're currently using to be able to address the COVID-19 crisis. So again, identify those decision makers that you're going to design the data solutions for. And there was a question here, and I think my third point actually talks to that question. Don't design solutions outside of existing regulatory frameworks. You need to familiarize yourself with the Gdpr. We are in Europe, and you need to know actually what Gdpr allows and what it doesn't allow. In Belgium, as I mentioned earlier, we've been working with the 3 telecom operators. We managed to secure access to the data within 5 days, thanks to the buy-in from the Minister of Health and the Minister of Digital, both of them. And we started working on designing data use cases that will be relevant for the COVID response. But obviously, the first and foremost thing we did is, started thinking about use cases that are compliant with the current regulatory frameworks. It's not like we designed the use cases and then we looked whether they work for the Gdpr framework, but we actually know the Gdpr framework. We know we cannot use individual data. So we actually, whatever use cases we designed on the risk of the virus, on the spread of the virus, on the population movements, was all aggregated and anonymized data that did not leave the premises of the operators. So yes, that made our lives easier and made our solution a lot more practical. So do know what you could do and what you could not do, especially when you engage in designing and developing data solutions. That speaking about that was the third point, but it's very important to know a bit the data, and not only data, but the governance structures. If you are to design solutions for better decision making, and again, speaking to the previous points, understand a little bit how the governance structure works and how you could plug in, those governance structures so that your solution is helpful and practical. Again, I'm a practitioner, so very much focusing on that. Sorry for the little interruption. So basically, to conclude, I would like to finish with that data is not, and should not be an end goal and an end product. Data, in fact, is an enabler for a much more effective response to the crisis. So it's really consider data as an enabler, not an end product. So treat it this way and find for yourself what your data solution will be enabling, right? And remember, we can't fight a fire blindfolded. We do need information, but we also need to know who we are designing for and what exactly these organizations or people, a group of people, need in terms of information. So that's from me. I wish you good luck to everyone. I'm happy to stay in touch. And as you advance with your use cases, with your data solutions, I'm again happy to provide more feedback, more practical feedback on how you could make those, a reality. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, everyone. I'll be remaining for the next 15 minutes, I think 10-15 minutes in the chat, and then I need to drop off. But yeah, I'm here.
Perfect. Thank you, Rositsa, for that presentation. I hope it was really insightful for everyone. Couple of questions. Let's see here. Was there one about the privacy? So would you have maybe a word to say about the personal data privacy as well that you can maybe guide some of the teams with? Because it seems to be a common question. A lot of people are curious about how to maintain the privacy and GDPR, etc. Would you have any hints or tips for the team around it?
Well, probably the simplest answer here, and it could go, it can be a lot more complex, but the simplest one is do not try to use individual data unless you have the consent of people for the particular objective that you're trying to use the data for. And if you do not have the consent of people, think of or create use cases that use aggregated and anonymized data, so that you're not speaking about alerts to an individual person, but you're speaking about an alert to a group of people. Could be, minimum number of 50, or if you're tracking population movements, track population movements of, 1,000 people, not of one particular person, so that the data is anonymized and aggregated. That's kind of the very quick and understandable answer, but do read a little bit about the GDPR, especially when you start designing the solutions, and make sure that you're fully compliant with what the GDPR asks for.
Perfect. Thank you for that response. And then there's one here, maybe actually for Antti and yourself too. obviously, for example, Apple and Google, I know, are working on the Bluetooth side for contact tracing for future outbreaks and for trying to control outbreaks of COVID-19. But there's one here that's asking about mobile network or internet data measurements. So are there any public available sources of those that could be used to perhaps predict the spread, because there's maybe a huge amount of users within a given area for a certain operator? Do you know of any open source ones of those that would be available?
Yeah, I only know about, it's very hard to make publicly available operators data because it's a very political data source. But Google has released public data sets at a certain administrative level of population movements, kind of daily, I think, or weekly. So do check that. And it's quite exhaustive. And again, it really depends on, here we are talking about the European context. I've been working very closely in Africa. I'm actually based out of Kampala. So, such a data source will be very much meaningless, especially when you go out of the urban areas. So it's the solution needs to take into account data sources that are relevant for the geography you're solving for. But I do think that the Google data could be helpful for many European contexts.
Yeah, I must also note that Google data is actually available as a resource in the challenge page. So check that one out, ultrahack.org, COVID-19 data hack. That's where you'll be able to find that link. And it is something I think it's available on the national level for many countries. So it's worth checking out to see. Then actually, just to follow up, I asked a question to Antti. What's your tips and advice for the participants of this webinar now, and how to keep sane during this isolation period? Because it can be tricky mentally, but how do you manage to cope?
Are you asking Jan or me? I didn't get that.
You, Rositsa, yeah.
You're asking me. Okay. I have just one silver bullet, and it's running. I run every day, and I'm so grateful that I actually got stuck in Brussels, not in Kampala during the crisis, because here the authorities still allow exercise outside. Kampala, that's not possible, so I'm very grateful for that, and I just run every day, and that keeps me sane. Listen to music sometimes as well, but running is definitely my thing.
That sounds good. Keeping fit, I think, seems to be the main thing. And actually, we'll pose that question to Jan as well. What's your tips for the participants of the webinar, Jan?
Okay. Tip number one is unmute yourself nicely in advance and don't try to do it when you start speaking. So I think this is your opportunity to ask questions. This is your opportunity to make sure you understand everything what's going on. And I would strongly recommend you to go out and check our website. And actually, I would recommend to come up with an idea and sign up for the event.
Yep, I would definitely recommend that too. Sign up as soon as you can. The deadline looms very quickly, so you might miss your chance. The deadline, actually, someone was asking for the deadline, so it is the 27th. It is midday on Monday, so you still have a little bit of time to start thinking. For those who maybe have a question and you don't want to type it, you can ask verbally. So if you stick your hand up, raise your hand, I can actually unmute you, and you can interact a little bit more. So for those who are stuck at home feeling a little bit lonely, now is your chance. No one. Silence. There's been no more questions coming in. So in the meantime, if you have any questions, just feel free to keep putting them in the chat. What I can do now is actually give you a little bit of an insight into how this works. So we have a Slack domain set up. In that Slack domain, if you need a team, obviously you had the poll question now just asking if you require team members. If you need a team, need team members, or need some assistance, you can get in there. The organizers are there to help you out at any time. Feel free to ping us in a PM or put it into an open channel. There is an opportunity for a bit of fun there. We like to see what kind of memes you have have found that actually kind of entertain you. So feel free to share the memes there as well to make everybody else laugh. Obviously, COVID-19 is contagious, but let's make laughter contagious too. Let's see if there are any other questions. I think most of the questions in the chat have been answered already. So just to highlight it here, yep, the IPR will always be retained by the participants. So if you create something, that will always be your own according to UltraHack rules. That won't be taken by anybody else. There's been a few questions about the sensitivity and the information that you have to put onto the platform, onto your submission. Obviously, if there are sensitive parts, you do not need to enter that in. You can give a great description of your project, of what you're creating, without putting sensitive data there. So this is going to be what the selection is based on. 10 to 15 teams will be taken forward from this development phase through to the finals, the intensive phase. That selection will be made on Monday, and the teams will be notified immediately once that has been done. So the selection will actually be based on the content that is on the platform. What we'd like you to do is actually introduce the problem that you're approaching and put your solution up there. It would be great to give 2 to 3 paragraphs explaining how you're actually solving that problem. Then go into a little bit more detail into what data sets you're actually going to be using. So you need to reference, that is key. Right at the very end, even in your presentation to the pitch for the finals, it's good to reference the data sets and where exactly you found them, that we know it's a legit source. You should also mention at what stage your project is at, and then what you plan to do during the hackathon itself. The reason why is because the judging will actually be assessed on what has been produced during the weekend. So we won't actually be kind of assessing so much based on like what's happening now, but during the weekend, your development with the mentor's help. Obviously, we will have THL. We'll have some EIT Digital experts there as well, and a few other mentors to help you out. So it will be entirely based on what you've developed during the 48 hours. Any other questions here that we should highlight? So functionality demo, yep, that's a very good question. So the presentation, how we recommend it's going to be submitted at the event, so this is just a heads up if you get taken forward to the intensive phase. The presentation will consist of a 3-minute pitch plus 2 minutes for a demo. It will be a recorded pitch, a recorded video pitch. Obviously, we can't see you face to face, and sometimes there are technical errors if we use this kind of platform. So you will be recording it. You get to do the demo separately, but you must combine them into the one video. So it is good to have a demo of how it actually works, how you're actually using the data, and that will be submitted then by time point within the 48 hours. The judging criteria. So for the final pitch, the judging criteria will be the impact on fighting pandemics, the scalability of the solution, the business model, cost effectiveness of the solution. But then we will also, whenever we make them more defined, we will notify these to everyone. We like transparency so that everybody knows at what stage you should be at during the pitching and presentation. Let's see if there's any other questions here. Roger, it's not judging criteria. Does this mean that it does not matter if it is a already developed solution? I know that there's been many hackathons happening around the globe for hacking the crisis. Many of the teams have already been using data sets that are existing, but this event actually gives them an opportunity to update that and amend it according to the evaluation criteria of this event. So it doesn't matter if it's an already existing solution, but you can bring it to the event still. So the reason why we're focusing on the development during the weekend is those who are just coming with ideas get the opportunity to progress from literally an idea to a demo or prototype. And those with already existing solutions must actually develop their solution by the end of it, or at least develop more of the business model and show how they've utilized new data within that solution. There are resources on the webpage, as I mentioned previously, ultrahack.org, COVID-19 data hack. Use those resources if you can, but if you're using NL resources and you feel it might be of use to any other teams, don't keep them to yourself. It is open data. I know that other teams have to go and search them themselves, but it's good to share. So on Slack, there are a couple of channels. You can share those resources there that other teams might be able to find something useful. What we've seen here from the poll is that close to 2/3 of the attendees here who responded to the poll do not have a submission yet. As mentioned, you still have time until next Monday, so feel free to enter the Slack, find a team, or get ideas for your submission. There are some people still looking for team members. If somebody's looking for a team here, please highlight it in the chat. If you're looking for a particular talent, you can also mention that as well. But also in Slack, you can use the little emojis for finding different talents. We have a question here then, do you want to announce challenges on the first day of the hackathon, from Alireza? Just to address that one, the challenge is actually on the webpage already. What you'll be solving is already there. So please go to ultrahack.org, COVID-19 data hack, and you'll see the challenge that you'll be addressing. No more questions currently coming. On Slack, actually, just a little final note. We actually had it's still ongoing. There is a poll there, and one of the questions was like, what's the main thing that you will miss when you return to the office from remote work? There were several options, things such as your couch, your partner, spouse, your pet, cookies, working in your pajamas. And it seems to be that working in your underpants and cookies are two of the things that people will miss most when they return to the office. So I can imagine this might be a new trend then in the future offices of today, working in underpants and cookies. Okay, no more questions at the moment. So teams will be consisting of maximum 5 members. That was addressed by Franklin. And this webinar is being recorded, so we will share this webinar and we will share Antti's slides. Rositsa, I know you have to leave. Do you have any final tips for the participants of the webinar?
I think I shared all my tips already, but I want to just wish everyone good luck. And yeah, looking forward actually to see what's going to come out of it. I don't think I'm going to be able to join all the weekend sessions, but happy to jump in, some of them and even support some of the more advanced ideas from a more practical standpoint again. So yeah, good luck everyone.
Thank you, Rositsa, for joining this session, and thank you for your time. I know it's valuable right now in the midst of this crisis. Please feel free to be in touch with me if you've got any questions to aim towards Rositsa in the meantime. Antti, any final words from your side?
Well, all I can say is that good luck, everyone, and I hope that you can come up with something that really kicks COVID-19 in the butt. Yeah. Good luck.
Love it. Yep. Perfect. Thank you, Antti, as well to you for your valuable time. It's been amazing to have you here on the webinar, and hopefully THL will be represented in the hackathon to give some insights from the Finnish side. So enjoy the rest of your week, Antti, and good luck with everything you're doing around COVID-19.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Jan, any final words for the attendees? from your side?
First of all, I still see some questions coming in. Don't worry, any questions that have been unanswered, we will make sure follow up with you. So we will do that. This was great. Thanks everybody for attending. I really look forward to all the submissions we have. We have seen already good interest over the past few days. And I think I'm really looking forward to get a couple of additional interesting submissions over the coming days. Thank you very much. Thanks for organizing.
Thank you, Jan. And there is one more question. So is it the use of data needed to make the project valid? Jan, would you like to address that one maybe? Very quickly.
I was just looking at that one actually. So the data can have two functions. I mean, the data will be helpful in order to validate or to develop the project. But the project itself can also be a source of creating data. I mean, both of it is possible. So data can be used in many ways, and we really leave it up to the creativity of your design to use the data.
I hope that answered your question, Anonymous. From our side at UltraHack, thank you to everybody for attending this session. I know it's kind of a crazy time we're in, but we're hacking this together to make things much better for people across the globe. Hopefully your solutions will impact the lives of many after the event. Emilia, would you like to say a couple of words from UltraHack side as well?
Yes, thank you. Nice to see all of you there. I have been mostly answering in the chat and Slack and Q&A section, so very pleased to see so many of you here. Very pleased to see more submissions coming in, and hopefully many of you are also in the hackathon in a couple of weeks, so thank you on my side as well.
Thank you, Emilia, for that. And just to address one final question, teammates from EIT should be from EIT Digital Master School? No, not necessary. This is a challenge that's open to anybody from across the globe. So feel free to invite your friends, your family members. If your grandpa is a hacker, please feel to invite him along. I'm sure he could give some valuable insights to it. So thank you, everyone, for attending this session. We hope you keep safe and healthy. And we'll address any further questions that you may have in Slack. This webinar will be shared in all the social media channels, and we will also share it in Slack as well, along with Antti's presentation. Thank you once again. Have a good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and keep safe and healthy. Thank you. Bye-bye.